At that point, Achaea's sons would have captured Troy and its high gates at Patroclus' hand as he raged with his frenzied spear, but for Phoebus Apollo, who stood there on the well-built wall, intending to destroy Patroclus and assist the Trojans. 3 times Patroclus started to climb up a corner on that high wall. 3 times Apollo shoved him back, his immortal hands repelling the bright shield. But when Patroclus for the 4th time came on like some god, Apollo, with a terrific cry, shouted these winged words at him: "Go back, divinely born Patroclus. This city of proud Trojans, according to its fate, will not be ravaged by your spear, nor even by Achilles, a far better man than you." Apollo spoke. Patroclus drew back a little, evading the anger of Apollo, the far shooter. Then Patroclus launched a charge against the Trojans, intent on slaughter. 3 times he assaulted them, like war god Ares, with terrific shouts. 3 times he killed 9 men, but when he attacked a 4th time, then, Patroclus, you saw your life end. For Phoebus, a terrible god in that grim fight, came up against you. Patroclus failed to see Apollo as he moved through the confusion, for he advanced towards him, hidden in thick mist. Apollo stood behind him. Then, with the flat of his hand, he struck Patroclus on his back, on his broad shoulders. That made his eyes lose focus. Next, Phoebus Apollo knocked the helmet from his head. The horsehair crest rolled with a clatter under horses' feet. The dust and blood then stained the helmet's plumes. Up to that time, gods had not let that helmet with its horsehair plume get smudged with dirt, for it was always guarding godlike Achilles' head, his noble forehead too. Later Zeus awarded it to Hector to carry on his head, as his death loomed. In Patroclus' hands, his heavy, long-shadowed spear, thick and strong, with its bronze point, was completely smashed. His tasseled shield and strap fell from his shoulders, down on the ground. Next, Apollo, Zeus's son, loosened the body armor on Patroclus. His mind went blank, his fine limbs grew limp. He stood there in a daze. From close behind, Euphorbus, son of Panthous, a Dardan warrior, hit him in the back with a sharp spear between the shoulder blades. Euphorbus surpassed all men the same age as him in spear throwing, horsemanship, and speed on foot. He'd already knocked 20 men out of their chariots, and that was the first time he'd come with his own chariot to learn something of war. Pulling the spear out of Patroclus' flesh, Euphorbus ran back again to blend in with the throng. He didn't stand his ground, even though Patroclus had no weapons for a fight. So Patroclus, overwhelmed by the god's blow and spear, withdrew, back to the group of his companions, avoiding death. But when Hector noticed brave Patroclus going back, wounded by sharp bronze, he moved up through the ranks, stood close to Patroclus, and struck him with his spear, low in the stomach, driving the bronze straight through. Patroclus fell with a crash, and Achaea's army was filled with anguish. Just as a lion overcomes a tireless wild boar in combat, when both beasts fight bravely in the mountains over a small spring where they both want to drink, and the lion's strength brings down the panting boar, that's how Hector, moving close in with his spear, destroyed the life of Menoetius' noble son, who'd killed so many men. His spirit fluttered from his limbs and went to Hades, lamenting its own fate, the loss of youthful manhood.